This is straight from Gilbert Verdian once again. Here it is. He was talking about this use case. You got to keep in mind, for some people who don't know, Quant was originally known as Remit. They started all the way back in 2013. And as we know, Quant didn't go live with their particular token offering of the QNT token until 2018. But they have started in 2013 under the name of Remit. If you don't believe me, even if you go back into it, Remit, like it says, we are creating a blockchain internet. Quant Network connects the networks to blockchain. We're starting by creating the blockchain ISO standard. What standard? The ISO TC307 standard. Basically, concept 2015, realized in 2016. So all of this was developed long before a QNT token offering. We talk about this use case being behind the idea of launching Remit all the way back in 2013. In which you have blockchain rails to settle tokenized money for cross-border remittance flows. Fast forward 10 years later to where we're at now with what Quant's accomplished with the Bank of International Settlements, the Bank of England, and so on. But I love this, and I want you to pay attention to this, even if you're watching this either on the live or the chopped up version. The idea was to embed new blockchain payment flows into banking apps and super apps. You know, when this gets chopped up later, you could basically state that, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of even Jasmy, Quant and Jasmy once again, because when it comes to the super wallet, you can have a broader idea of how all this is tied in to create not just interoperability, but to just simply make an enabler of all this. He cites X, right, formerly known as Twitter. And Gilbert Verdian talks about X and PayPal are the ones to first implement the tokenized money use case at scale. This is absolutely huge. Why is this so huge? Well, if you've been paying attention to X or listened to any particular interviews from Elon Musk, Musk has specifically mentioned, quote unquote, and I wish I had a little video for you, but I don't. You can look into it for yourself. You've probably even seen a short at some point. But Elon Musk talks about at some point you could very well see half of the world's commerce flow into X. When I see a statement like this about the idea of Remit, before it was even called Quant, to embed new blockchain payment flows into banking apps and super apps, I just think to myself, this is huge. Gilbert Verdian has tagged, because, Mr. Elon, not Elon Musk, Elon Musk, aka Mike Cornwell, Crypto Mike, he always tags me, right? And you guys are always welcome to tag me. But Gilbert Verdian always tags Elon Musk, the real Elon Musk, quite often. And I always think to myself, you better believe that these guys have conversations. They know about each other, right? PayPal, one of the first to implement the tokenized money use case at scale, like it says, X and PayPal. And back in 2013, 10 years ago, the underlying blockchain foundation, interoperable infrastructure, of course, didn't exist. The gap that we saw was to pivot and first solve the underlying infrastructure and gateway for institution enterprise through interoperability, which became Overledger. Right. Remit rebranded, call themselves basically Quant Network. This thinking led to the establishing, of course, like we know, of ISO TC307, and just basically outline that for you. It, of course, evolved into Quant Network back in 2017, and as we know, QNT went live with the token offering in 2018. Now, fast forward to 2023, the underlying foundation, interoperable blockchain infrastructure are, of course, in place for institutional and enterprise use, hence why I cited the whole thing with Project Rosalind, the BIS, Bank of England. It's a matter of time for more financial services incumbents to integrate digital asset flows with tokenized money, such as commercial bank deposits, liabilities, regulated stablecoins, CBDC. Every single time I look more into this, I draw the conclusion that Quant is not just doing the whole thing of, a digital pound, but even like we shared earlier on the beginning of this outline, what's going on in the United States. And look at what's even cited here from last August in regards to the US dollar. Boom, right there. We already know about the pound, but how about like the yen? and even, of course, a euro. So it covers everything. We talk about quant being the API for everything. Quant also needs to be recognized as the CBDC tokenization engine for everything. Their approach. Look at this for a second. Remit multi-gateway. eKYC AML. You have Jumio, iSign, Identity Mine, Block Score, ID to blockchain mapping, blockchain gateway. How about this? ID to blockchain mapping. Now, you don't see it listed here, but that would be where Nexera would definitely come in. Okay, with what, especially what they're trying to do when it comes to one of many things. But one of the things that stands out is in regards to a digital passport. Especially like all over Europe. Say what you want, about Nexera. That's a big, big deal. Quant is always mentioned in regards to regional gateways. So let's talk about a few of these. Ripple, Stellar, yes, even Ethereum, right? Some of the old legacy systems. But look what it says in regards to the kind of dimmed out area. Mobile top-up prepaid debit. Again, think about the whole thing, what they got going on with Samsung. And, of course, some of the other ones. We're going to get more into this. I know it seems like a lot, but it's a good thing to understand when you get more into it. And I'm going to pull up this as well. Here we go. This is good stuff. So let's blow this up. This comes straight from the World Standard Corporation PDF. And you may be wondering, why am I sharing this? This is really, really good. I'll drop into the comments. The reason why I'm sharing this for you tonight is because I want you to understand the bigger picture of things. So back on January 23rd, 2023, which ironically is the anniversary date of DPG, it talks about ISO quite a few times. And if anything, I want to get to the specifics about this. So actually, I will shrink this down a little bit just so it can fit on the screen. But I want to get into the landscape of ISO along with the existing fields. And I'm just going to get into the good parts of all this. So we're just going to highlight some things. You guys know how I do the Control F. Control F can be your best friend if you allow it to be. So it talks about, for instance, these different fields. And basically it's all sorts of different things, right? There's different standards. But what about the 307, ISO TC307 standard? Why specifically that? Well, for one, the fields. So you see, for instance, digital currency fintech, ISO TC307, blockchain distributed ledger technologies. And when you get more into this, you will see other categories that this is under the blanket of. Let's jump into it. So you also see here that you have, this whole thing of distributed ledger technologies, DLT blockchain, right? ISO TC307 is cited here again. But on the bottom, you see it right here. And it talks about blockchain and distributed ledger technologies and IT security techniques. Let's jump to the next part. ISO TC307 blockchain and electronic distributed ledger technologies, obviously, but this is under the a different section. Hold on, let me pull up the other one. And this part, again, back to the whole thing, especially when it comes to Jasmy, identity management, digital identity identification. Once again, ISO TC307 blockchain distributed ledger technologies. Jump it down a little bit more into this. This part is absolutely huge. Were you aware that when it comes to metaverse, because sometimes people are kind of tired to hear about the metaverse, I look at the metaverse as like, the concept of when I drive by, a place down the street and there's just all this like development, but, and then you went from like having a building or actually just a few pieces of wood or whatever, the part of the structure. And then you get to the point where it's just like there's this whole thing built, but there's nobody in it yet. Look kind of like at the metaverse like that. Like it's eventually going to be utilized. It's not the concept of, modern, malls where most of these malls, let's face it, are becoming, like ghost towns. But when it states this whole thing about the metaverse, there's standards even when it comes to the metaverse. Were you aware of that? Well, one of the standards that really stands out is ISO TC307, blockchain distributed ledger technologies. This standard applies to the metaverse. And getting more into this last part, and again, from that link I just sent you guys, about security, cybersecurity, trust, and privacy. Once again, ISO TC307, cited right here. All right. So standards mean something. They're there for a reason. Gilbert Verdian invented this back in 2015 and had it realized in 2016 for a specific reason. And when you get more into this and take a deeper dive, you will see that you have blockchain distributed ledger technologies listed here once again. And, this is straight from the ISO standards site. This talks about sustainable development goals. The committee contributes to 17 standards to the following sustainable development goals. Published ISO standards, observing members, all this stuff here, right? You got DLT carbon markets. I mean, there's quite a few things, especially this one. Security, privacy, identity, right? This working group. Let me pull up a little bit more about this. But if you can see this for yourself, 307, SBP Review Advisory Group, Liaison, Digital Currencies, DLT, and Carbon Markets. Carbon markets. So even with what Jasmy's trying to do in regards to, and now we joke about it a lot, the Rice Crop Consortium, there's a standard for that. They would need to have the working group to work with it, which would be the Quant Network Standard, right? Boom, there it is, in regards to carbon markets. So when they talk about the Rice Crop Consortium, well, you're going to have to work with that working group. How about for more increased security, privacy, identity for blockchain? Yes, that working group is still ISO TC307, the Quant Network Standard. Smart contracts and their applications. We talk about the super wallet and stuff. Working group, ISO TC307. Boom, right here. So it's not like, we're at the point where this is just speculative anymore. I want people to understand that because I take you straight to the actual sources to verify some of these things. Now, when it comes to some of these things, we understand that in the future, we're going to see, utility-based NFTs. Well, look at this for a second. So for one, you do have that. There's a standard for that, ISO TC307. And even with Overledger, we know that you have QRC 721 in regards to that smart NFT, I guess you could say, platform under the Quant umbrella of Overledger. There is governance that falls into compliance in regards to Japanese regulations and so on. Obviously, multiple use cases. Interoperability, guys, even though I pound it home all the time, is just the tip of the iceberg. I wanted you to finally understand and see how this is all broken down. It's all right here. It's all for you to see. And if you want to see that for yourself, just in case you want the source, I will put that into the comments for you. Hopefully you do see that. Yes, you do. And like it says, joint working groups under the responsibility of another committee. You have some of these other standards that even work, like other ISO standards also working with ISO TC307, just like for the example of ISO 222 with the messaging, also with ISO TC307. So when we say that, ISO TC307, when you really look into ISO standards, they are the cream of the crop. Absolutely. All right. I'm going to show you now, I think, a video in regards to ISO standards. And yes, let's go ahead and play this here in a minute. It's about sustainable development goals. It's 2 hours. Excuse me. Hope not. 2 minutes and 14 seconds in regards to ISO and the sustainable development goals. Appreciate the coverage. Please make sure that you have basically, smash the like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Now, for some reason, I was thinking that I could do a full screen. I don't know why I can't do a full screen. So what we'll do is we'll play it from here, and I'll try to take myself out of the frame for you can see it. Here we go. I apologize. I wasn't on the right tab. All right, let me get you over to the right tab. Sorry about that. I wondering what was going on with that. All right, let's just pull this up. Sorry about that. I'll edit that out later. Here we go.
With increasing demands placed on the planet by a growing population, sustainable development is one of the biggest challenges we are facing today. The United Nations 2030 Agenda represents a global consensus to achieve sustainable development worldwide in just over a decade, ensuring that no one is left behind. The 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs, adopted in the framework of the 2030 Agenda, are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. International standards tackle a host of global issues. As a catalyst for innovation and best practice, they are solutions for industries, businesses, and communities. They also help protect consumers from unsafe and harmful products. As such, international standards are key to supporting the implementation of the SDGs and making them a reality. ISO works with leading experts and partners from around the globe to provide relevant tools that can be applied everywhere. From climate change to energy efficiency, our standards respond to global needs and help benchmark our progress against the SDGs. How can ISO contribute to the United Nations goals? ISO has set up the SDG Standards Mapping Tool, containing some 600 standards that contribute to the SDGs. The dedicated section on ISO.org represents a first ever attempt for ISO to consolidate standards in support of the SDGs in a coherent way. Users around the world will increasingly find in our collection of international standards solutions to ensure the sustainable development of the planet. Together, with ISO standards, we can contribute to making the 2030 Agenda a reality, so no one is left behind.
All right, so kind of cool to see that, right? Oh, everybody likes a little video once in a while. But I want to jump into IBM for a second. All right, I know it sounds crazy to even mention IBM, but we need to reference them. It's good stuff. So let's get into this in regards to IBM. And I'm going to go ahead and share this. This also comes from Quant Papa, so I can't take all the credit for the finding. Let's go ahead and pull this up for you guys. Here's another link I'm going to drop for you guys, just in case if you want to nerd that out, because sometimes there's always one person that will ask in regards to, sources and so on. So here's a source. So basically speaking, this comes straight from IBM. And look what it says. IBM Blockchain 2018. This is a particular PDF that we decided to get more into. Now, keep in mind, this is in German, I believe, but it talks about this agenda, mentions ISO TC307. I'm not going to get into all of this. Some of it, of course, is in English, which is good. But it talks about transferring assets, building value, and so on. Tangible assets. Talks about two fundamental types of assets, like, we're always talking about real estate and so on. So ledgers are key. This is all the way back when? What did we say it was? 2016? 2018? 2016. Yeah, that's correct. But we get into all these examples And it becomes clear that, IBM had a whole idea of what they were looking to do in regards to all this. But let's just jump into some of the standards, for instance. So for one, their agenda with the IBM blockchain, for instance, was to take this to like a whole new level. And you even see on this particular page, I think it's page 76, about blockchain standardization with ISO TC307. And look at this for a second. International Standardization Organization structure. They even had a structure made up years ago. Look at this for a second, just in case you missed it. Blockchain standardization, ISO TC307 structure. This is even from IBM. Every single one of these that's shown here show ISO TC307, reference architecture, taxonomy and ontology, use cases, security and privacy, identity, smart contracts, governance of blockchain distributed ledger technology systems, interoperability of blockchain distributed ledger technology systems, terminology, of course, and even security, privacy, and identity. This is all the way back in 2016. They had this structure. You got to keep in mind, ISO TC307 was finally introduced to the world in 2016, and IBM decided to go all after it, like a fat kid on a cake, as I would say. Now, in regards to the whole thing with Jasmy, I want you guys to see this for a second. I know I'm out of the frame, but oh well. The emphasis should be on this. Some people have questioned some of these things, like we established the whole thing of IoT, Jasmy, and Quant. But now Jasmy is entering into an AI blockchain solution. Look at this for a second. What does it say here? Plain as day, artificial intelligence, blockchain, distributed ledger technologies, ISO TC307, and even some of these other working groups. That's what WG stands for, by the way, if you don't understand what that meant. So you have ISO TC307, Working Group 6, Blockchain Distributed Ledger Technologies, use cases. But it's all cited here, right? The working group will be with ISO IEC JTC 1/SC42, Artificial Intelligence. That's incredible. That tells me that instead of just interoperability, you have to work with these working groups. And if you have to work with the working groups, that tells me also that QNT is part of everything that we could possibly imagine. Not just the whole thing with APIs, it's the actual standards plus the working groups. What will that mean in regards to these assets that we hold? I think it means a lot. And with that said, let me come out of the frame. What does it mean for you as being a QNT holder, and especially Jasmy holder? I think for the last couple days, I talked your guys' ears off with this. Maybe you appreciate it. Maybe you get kind of worn out with it. But, let's face it, guys. There's been a lot of FUD, once again, for both projects. Know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD, and that's exactly what it is. FUD, 110%. Are people covering this because they just want the views, because it's popular to cover FUD? I don't know. But you know what? I'm in this to make money, and I see a lot of use case. I see a lot of upside potential with these particular assets.